live. It's funny because we were both at the I was like,
dude, good afternoon, Juan. I love the opening. Hello. The 30-second countdown is really peaceful, like dun, 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 and then all of a sudden goes right into House of Pain.
Yeah.
Dope. All right,
guess you're going.
I know. It excites me. Obviously, it's our age, it's our demographic. So,
thanks. No, yeah, I feel old now. It's our demographics, not for everybody else in here, but at least ours.
It's really about us.
It's their stuff.
It's really about us. Anyway, so everybody, welcome to Central Mafia live stream education series.
Yes, I was talking to Lynette backstage. This is the first time we're doing our webinar, doing the live stream.
All right.
So different experience. So we're excited to post this directly into our YouTube and be live on YouTube and LinkedIn. So big changes for us.
Absolutely.
And that's because of the community and everybody that's supporting us. So that's very important. Making progress.
You know what? We are making progress.
Yes.
And and so for as Juan mentioned, this will be streaming live on those, but also we will be uploading the recorded video to YouTube for future. So that way, for future consumption, you can always look back on it. So it'll be there for you guys. In the meantime, Juan Mack, not Team Sean, which is bull. He is Team Sean.
Let me have that until I figure out you were joining.
Perfect. So you can see down below, we have scrolling the link. So for any of you partners, users that don't have access to this, are looking for a good community to get involved in, we do have a Slack group. It is all partner led. You can be part of this. There is nobody there to sell anything to you. There is no requirement for any kind of lead creation, and we will add you to our distribution list so you can get all the updates on any events taking place, whether they're the live streams and or physical events that we're getting together on across the country. Now, with that said, though, we are here for education. I know we have a slide deck that you have to go through, so we've got to make sure we pull it up and run through it, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
There it is.
There it is. Look, honestly, and let's thank our designer for recreating our logo, Central Mafia logo, which is dope.
Yeah.
It is actually.
All right. Hey, let's get things started. Oh, I know we're representing. Last minute wardrobe change here too.
I know, right? Oh, did I tell you I was in Texas and I bought a hat?
I knew you were in Texas. It looks good. You need to do the mustache there that you had a couple of weeks ago. That will go with that hat.
Yeah, I was told never wear that again.
All right, we're on a schedule. So let's go through the housekeeping items. So like Sean said, this is our monthly webinar series for education. And we're excited to have Lynette with us today. She'll be joining us here in a few minutes. And we'll talk to her later, but she was over at the user group and she went through this presentation. So if you're not able to attend the user group, you're going to see where you missed during that event.
Specify user group because we are the user group. It's the physical in-person meetup we do.
Correct. It's Chicago user group that happened. That was like what, 2 weeks ago?
Yes,
2-3 weeks ago. And we had a lot of interesting and good content to share with the partners, and this is one of them. So, all right. So housekeeping items. This is a partner-led community. So when we are growing, the purpose for you guys is to engage through education, through all of our different activities, either in person, this virtual. We also have an open mic where you can come in and talk to other partners. And the idea is to get to know each other, make connections, because that's how we grow the community. That's how we learn. And we're always looking for suggestions. So if you have any idea or any ideas around content or things that you would like to see or do, just let us know. Reach out to me, Sean, or anybody in the community, and we'll make sure that we'll do our best to make those things happen. Sean talked about the Slack group earlier. There is the QR codes. So I will pause there for a second so everybody can take their phones out and scan the QR code. It is a safe QR code. That's like always the running joke. It will not take you into anything that you shouldn't go to.
The Central Mafia OnlyFans page.
Yes.
We're looking for subscriptions.
Create one.
I know. How?
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
we'll do that next month. Probably could get a couple of good picks for that. So join our
Oh, you know what those are?
stay up to date on all the everything that is happening. And if you're not there, I think there's like a hidden code for Connect somewhere in there. So you go and join. All the different groups are in there. And like Sean said, there's no promotion from vendors. It is all to engage the community and keep growing. And also, we have our LinkedIn. That is another great place to stay up to date what is on everything that is happening, all for upcoming events and all the news related to the whole user group, not necessarily the Central Mafia.
Yep. YouTube channel, QR code, scan this. You can see all the same stuff we referred to. Moving on, we have a schedule to keep up with.
I know.
Juan already mentioned virtual sessions, but let's mention them again because that's what we do.
Next, well, I want to promote next month. We will have we talk about QBRs, driving success through QBRs, and then our monthly sessions. So keep an eye for those announcements and that email that I send out to keep everybody informed. We also have the opportunity to join CompTIA, have a membership to CompTIA. If you're not a member, they have awesome benefits. And courtesy of the Central Mafia, you can have a 1-year membership to CompTIA. Hold on, I just got disconnected from Screen Connect, and I want to let me know. There you go. I'm back.
Not from Screen Connect.
Yeah, I was, working earlier. IT Nation Connect.
Up and coming. IT Nation Connect. I got you, Juan. Ready? November 6th to the 8th. I'll be there. Juan will be there. We are able to offer, as you being one of the people that are viewing this, part of the user group itself, if you use code Central Mafia, listed at the bottom of the screen there, and actually running across the bottom of the screen in the banner there, you get $250 off registration. Pretty freaking dope. Good ass price. I would suggest you do. It is the best show of the year. I worked for IT Nation, but I didn't always work for IT Nation, and it was still the best show of the year.
Absolutely. And we'll be getting together. We're going to have a special get together for all the communities. So keep an eye out for that as well.
All right.
Aftershock user group. Unfortunately, it needed to be rescheduled. Or the colleagues from ConnectWise that wanted to go over there. We want to make sure that everybody is safe. So that was happening this week, and they're still working on some final dates. But it will be at the San Francisco Zoo. So for all our Aftershock members, just make sure that you check your email, check social medias. You'll get notifications from us to let you know when that is happening.
Yep, looking at approximately mid-November after IT Nation Connect that we just mentioned. So There you have it. But looking forward to it. I think Lynette will be going to that as well. She loves that stuff. Anyway, moving on. All
right. So let's get to the meat of this session. So with us today is going to join us, Lynette. And she, like I said, she was over in Chicago sharing some content. And she is always she is actually part of the Central Mafia. She lives in Chicago. So she is not adopted. She is native to the Central Mafia. You're adopted, Sean, because you're off the grid there. So we're happy to have Lynette with us to share the PSA sales lifecycle inside in ConnectWise and using all the different tools. So, Lynette, are you there? There she is.
There I am. Thank you for the introduction, Juan. I always love coming to the Central Mafia group. As you said, I am local. I'm just outside Milwaukee. And I used to work at MSP. I worked at a couple of MSPs in the Milwaukee area. So this was the user group I went to. This is the user group where I'm like, ConnectWise gets my brain. So I'm super excited to now be working for ConnectWise and still able to help our local partners.
Awesome.
Well, can I be the first to welcome you to your forever family now that you've been adopted? I'm really happy we were able to make that work for you. speaking from a fellow adoptee. Yes. So welcome, Lynette, to the family.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Glad to be here.
So let's
So
I have a question, actually work related.
Okay.
Actually, the presentation related. I've done sales for most of my life. One thing I find important is everybody thinks it's just it's an art of people talking and being able to sell stuff, but there's also the technology and the process requirements required. And I feel like this is such a great, meaningful session to talk about. And I nerd out on automation stuff and technology. So I love it. I think when we talk about sales enablement, I feel like PSAs and CRMs are like the last on the list to be discussed, which is incredibly amazing to me, considering they should be hosting the entire life cycle, the entire journey. By the way, that's from net new lead to somebody has an opportunity, somebody actually wants to be a customer, all the way through to where you upsell them the entire until they die.
One of my favorite ConnectWise sayings always was, if it's not in ConnectWise, it didn't happen. So that initial conversation all the way through, it should be in there and document everything.
Absolutely. But it comes down to people establishing the right process within the technology that you're using.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to this, it's not only important for these, when you talk about like the sales team, it's everybody in the organization, right? Because we always talk about like customer journey, right? And every single person is always talking to the client. So it's not only important for the sales team to manage, their pipeline properly and use the tools, but, we tell our engineers, if you're going to be on site, take a look at all the things that are on the pipeline for that client, so you can actually have those conversations. Because it's interesting how people like to talk more to engineers than the sales, and have that type of conversation. So it's always important to have that in front of you, and that's one of the beauties of having everything in ConnectWise. And like Lynette, like you said, like if it's not in ConnectWise, no, it didn't happen, nobody else knows about it, right? So it's very important to have that visibility.
Well, yeah, if Sean gets hit by a bus and he doesn't have all his opportunities in ConnectWise, how are we going to know what happened when he loses his memory?
Why am I getting hit by a bus? Like,
because you take chances and you just cross the street without looking.
That is the traditional. Yeah. You're gonna get hit by a bus.
You're just losing your memories. That's all.
Yeah.
Wow. Fine. Okay. Fine. If I get a bus, how's it going to people know? That's why technology is so important to host the information, but it has to be built in a process from the leadership that knows how to do it and distributed to the employees so they can do their job effectively. Because one thing that I do know is that people struggle getting even quotes out in a timely fashion. If you don't have velocity in sale, you don't get the sale.
That's true.
I'll be here all day.
Yeah.
Now, let's let Lynette say important things now.
Yes. Yeah. She has a lot of information to share. So,
Sean, you can feel free to jump in.
Go for it.
There we go. So, like Juan said, this is the presentation that I did recently at our Chicago user group there in Burr Ridge. So we want to start from the agenda. So that comes back to that, if it's not in ConnectWise, it didn't happen. So start from the opportunity as soon as you have that first conversation. And then we're going to talk about how we're going to transition from that opportunity to getting that quote out in CPQ. There's things that we could do in CPQ that we can put some different options out there, and we don't have to bring all of those products into our product catalog yet. So that's a great advantage of using CPQ for those quotes. And then we want to make sure that we're converting that one opportunity to a sales order. I know there's the opportunity or the option to convert it directly to other things, but I want you to get in the habit of doing that sales order, giving you that one place to look for that data and that information. As your company grows, you're going to thank me for that. And then finally, we're going to talk about that automating the sales process. So like Sean was talking, we want to make sure that we have some automation in place. Automating things makes it that less things are likely to fall through the cracks or get forgotten. So we definitely want to make sure we're putting automation in on those things that maybe aren't always done correctly. So first, starting from the opportunity. So Sean and Juan, I have a question for you and for the community, as if they want to throw it in the chat there. When do you create the opportunity? Sean, do you create it at that first conversation? Do you wait until after there's some talk of products? When do you generally create it?
So, I mean, I'll throw out the diplomatic answer first, which is depends on the what you're selling and what the sales process really consists of, right? However, traditionally speaking, my rules were, for me, my team, whatever, was what you have to actually qualify that to be an opportunity. There's a drastic difference between, there's suspects and there's prospects, right? And until you determine those, that's done through a series of events that you may create, which is your sales cycle, right? So after you do an actual discovery and a presentation of your offering, whether it's a product or a service, doesn't matter, whatever you're talking about, and you guys agree that you're a match, then you create an opportunity.
Interesting.
When you've covered BANT, budget, authority, needs, and timing. BANT.
Juan, what's your take on that?
We actually have that when we have the conversation with the client when it's been uncovered, and we do have like all those different stages in place. So as soon as the conversation happens, it gets entered in our system, not necessarily with an amount, but it provides visibility for the account manager, right, to know that those things are happening. We do have some policies when it comes to like make sure that there's a follow up. You have that next activity. I remember when we first started with ConnectWise, get the red out, right? Make sure those things are not showing up in red. So it's usually when that conversation happens. But Sean was mentioning about being qualified, and then we make sure the opportunity is qualified before we engage other individuals, like when we're actually going into the design mode, right, and bring those technical resources into the conversation. Make sure that it's truly qualified in order to move it forward.
And we can set all of those stages. All of those stages in ConnectWise PSA are customizable to your process. So you can bring it in as a lead and, track your activities. So Sean, you were talking about doing that discovery and doing those other things. You can track all of that in activities and make sure that any of that output that you get from them, maybe you're keeping that track of that in a configuration. You could put some questions in there for some of those sales activities or in a sales survey. But that way, ultimately, all of that information that you're gathering, even before they're qualified, still lives out in PSA if anybody has questions further down the line. So if an engineer comes back and like, why did we do this? They can go back and see that discovery information.
Yep.
So
I like that. I'll question then too.
Sure.
Because as Juan was answering, he talked about the account manager. So I think there's a drastic difference between a net new client prospect, like a unique logo, to an existing, because typically your account manager doesn't get involved until they're actually a customer, because they're managing the account. They're not an account yet. So I'm curious, is there a way to define that based off persona-based roles in ConnectWise? So in other words, here's the hunter salesperson. They're going after net new people. Here's the existing clients. And here's the account manager, their persona. So is that possible within ConnectWise?
Are you talking for distinguishing their opportunities?
A unique
I'm guessing, so the account manager, they're going to come in more so at that qualified lead already, or you could even have a stage for existing customer or maybe renewal or added services. So you can define those things within your sales stage.
Yeah.
And then I like to, and I do talk about that later in this animation or in this presentation, I like to use the distinction when you win an opportunity between just winning and winning if it's a new client. Excuse me. So you can definitely set off some workflow rules and some triggers that are going to take some action that's going to change and be different if it's a new client. So we'll get into that a little later.
Perfect.
So, of course, hopefully everybody is familiar with this screen. This is where you go to start that opportunity. And, of course, in ConnectWise, you just click the little plus. I love looking for the plus. You can always create something new when you have the plus. And then there's a lot of information that we need to fill in. Some of it is required, some of it not. We do need to put in a summary. And I cannot recommend enough making sure you put in something here that makes sense and is logical. Hopefully you have a company naming policy. I know that's something I was trying to put in place when I was at the MSP, just to make it something standard so people can know the information based on just looking at that opportunities list. And then next, we're going to put in that company information. So we can select that company from our existing company list. So even if they are a lead, we want to make sure that they are in our ConnectWise instance as a prospect, or however you designate that company type and status. And then it's automatically going to default to whoever the primary contact is listed for that company. But you can change that if you're going to be working with somebody in a different department on this sale. And then the close date. This is one of those things that's very important. Juan was talking about keeping the red out, and that's one of my favorite sayings from ConnectWise. And I talk about that in my webinar next month or next week. We need to have that close date in the future. So, you know, if they're taking a little longer to close and get all of that stuff quoted, you want to make sure that you're keeping up on that close date and keep pushing it out in the future. And so if it's not in the future, it will show up red on your opportunities list. Next, we were talking about about that stage. And that stage, these are customizable to your company, to your process. So here we have lead and qualified. So Sean, maybe in your process, you're not necessarily using the lead. They start out as qualified. And then we can have something in between qualified and quoted if we're looking for something maybe for those existing partners to designate that, or existing customers to designate that from maybe a new incoming customer. And this is one of the things that I love that I don't think is used enough. Sean, Juan, do you guys use the campaign?
We do.
I am so happy to hear that. Sean shaking his head.
And I was just waiting. I was like, I have a pro tip. Because when you were talking about earlier, when like not all the fields are required, you can actually go into your and customize on when you're creating custom fields, and you can actually select some of these fields and make them required. So we do actually, our campaign is a required field for us to create opportunities.
I love that. You are going to be my like star student example now. It's just such a great way. I know people talk that ConnectWise PSA is not a great marketing tool, and I will back you 110% on that, but it is a great way that you can keep track of those campaigns. So you can see here, we have a screenshot from marketing campaign, and this is an existing campaign that I have. And I want to show, this gives us the information. This tells us what type it is, if it's still open, if it's still active. The important stuff is right here. Look at that. When you apply the opportunity to this, you can then get these numbers. So you can see that we have 4 open opportunities against this campaign. Unfortunately, this is a bad example from my training instance that we don't have any one. So then that ROI isn't necessarily accurate here. But if maybe you bought a mailing list and you have a cost associated with that, as those one opportunities are coming in and you're winning them and marking them that way, it will show you if that mailing list was worth the money. So you know, okay, maybe this is a good list for us. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe we go with somebody else or something different next time. So this is a great way to track how effective your marketing campaigns are. You don't have to be marketing through PSA, but definitely tracking those dollars spent and what is won against them is very important.
What about for physical in-person event marketing?
You can absolutely still track that as well. So here you can see I have the overview. We could put what type it is. In this case, the example I used was an email, but if it was an in-person event, and there is in the setup, this tab over here, you can put in how much it costs to set how much it costs to be a part of that event or whatever. And so that information will come off and will then show your ROI based on that, and then the one opportunities. Make sense?
So the question then is, how can you generate this as a report? So people that are going after MDF funds from vendors, because a lot of MCs do get marketing dollars from these vendors, and then if a vendor gives them money to market something, they want to know. They want to know what the ROI was out of it, or what happened. What was the KPIs, whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's a great question, Sean. I don't have the answer off the top of my head. I believe we should be able to pull a report out of here, and I can definitely look when we are no longer live.
Nice. Perfect.
Live demo. It never fails. Something's always going to be slow, but I will absolutely look into that. And if I find a report, I will get that information over to you so you can share with everybody out on the user group.
Now who's a star student, Juan? Thank you very much.
There is a built-in ROI report inside of PSA.
Nice trying to one up Lynette. See,
I just checked.
The two of you, you're both star students. I'll give gold stars next time I see you. I promise, right on the forehead.
I love that.
So coming back over here, talking about our sales stage, the other thing that this does for us is we can set up in our setup tables, when we're setting up those sales stages, we can also set that probability. Now, this is going to feed into our sales funnel. So when we're looking at like what we have coming up in our prospective sales, you can see here that we have $48,000 projected in revenue for qualified. And so because of the fact that we have that as a 50% probability, that's showing up as 29 expected. So it can kind of give us a better forecasting for staffing and other things coming up. So this is a great tool for sales managers just to see where things are going. And those probabilities are also things that you can completely customize based on your process. So based on your stages and at what point you think it's 50% committed. Excuse me. So any other questions about the opportunity, Sean, before I move on to the quote? Or Juan, I apologize. Just Sean, usually a little more vocal.
It's mostly Sean. Sean has all the questions. Sean's mostly confused. Juan has all the answers already. So no, because I don't want to go ahead of myself, because now they see this slide here. This would be the next step anyway of my questions. So
yep. So we have our customer qualified, and now we want to move into that quoting phase. And for quoting with ConnectWise, we're going to use CPQ. And a quick, easy way to do that, if you have your PSA instance and CPQ linked, is you just click that fun little quote button from your opportunity. I love doing this because that immediately brings in all of that customer data. It brings it over to CPQ for you. You don't have to hunt. You don't have to try remembering exactly how it's spelled in PSA so that you can find the right customer. The other thing I want to stress is start from a template. Don't recreate the wheel every time you're making a new quote. Make sure you have templates. And again, make sure that the names make sense. People aren't going to use the templates if it's template 1, 2, or 5. They're not going to know what it's for. So make sure that that naming convention gives them a clear notice of what they want to use this template for. We can also create template groups. So if you have different sales teams or different things that you're selling, you can see here that we have audio visual, and like existing customers. So if there's different templates you want to use based on some of those things, you can also organize them that way. So then we're moving on, and you can see all of the information was brought right on in over from that PSA opportunity for us. And then we cannot save it. We have this nice little red triangle. We cannot save it until we change this name. And again, something that makes sense, something that's unique. The customer is going to see this. So make sure that that is appropriate for them as well. Make sure that you're not putting, annoying customer number 1. So, and then once we save it, we can come over here. Now, recently, actually just earlier this week, I did a Ask Me Anything on quoting, and there was a lot of hate going on for this new header. I kind of think it's nice. It gives you a nice showcase of all of the information there, but there's some hate on it because it takes up a lot of real estate, which I can understand and appreciate, especially when I increase my resolution for these screenshots to make them clearer. You lose information.
What are people angry about?
What was that?
What are people angry about?
So this new quote header, it takes up a lot more space and real estate than the previous one did. So you can see it kind of limits how much space we have for products down here. So if you're adding a lot of products, people don't like to scroll, Sean. That is the moral of this story. And that is the thing I have learned from all of my time in education. People just don't like to scroll.
No, that's fair. I'm very much about one click and done concepts. I agree with that, right?
Yep.
But
People don't like to scroll. I hear.
Thanks, Juan.
Where is that? And then they have to like, no, it's down there.
I had my
I'm going through that,
webinar.
right?
The
And
person was
someone's
like, I'm here by myself. I'm like, you
Can
have
we
to
move it up?
scroll to get the
Yeah.
join button. Yep, it's everywhere. So, but this
Yeah.
does also expand to give you more information. So you can collapse it back so you can still get more of your real estate back. But it gives you a lot of great information on what is happening with this quote. Some people would like it not to show up until maybe later in the process, which I can understand and appreciate. The one thing I do want to put out there is if you have comments on this or complaints or things that you would like to see different, put them out in the ConnectWise virtual community. They listen to that. The product people are out there, education's out there, partner success is out there. We all are out there trying to help you be successful, and product is listening to this feedback. So if you have something that you want to see, definitely get involved, put it out there, and they'll see what they can do.
Awesome.
So now back. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No, go. You're good. I'm just being quiet now.
So one of my other new features, I like this. I have some partner success people who aren't all that thrilled about it, but coming from trying to standardize those quotes, I think this guided selling feature is amazing. So we have our little checkbox icon here. That is going to take us to guided selling. Now, this is something that a CPQ administrator does have to set up ahead of time, but then it gives your salespeople questionnaires that they can answer, and then it's going to automatically add all of the products associated with it. So I think this is most useful for those like gold, silver, platinum managed service contracts where maybe, you have more offerings, more products that are included in each of those bundles. And maybe your salespeople don't always remember exactly what to add in for that. So we can go ahead and map those through these questions, and it will add all of those products at the appropriate quantities. So you can see here we have our new managed services. And in this case, I kept it simple, just a couple of quick questions, the number of users and the managed support level. And again, we can choose on these questions what is required, and we can tie that number into that support number. So when we add that over here to our quote, it brought that 50 in for all 3 items that we have tied to that gold package. So this is a great way for maybe salespeople who are new and getting trained. If you have packages and offerings, Juan, I see a look from you. Do you have a comment?
You just said what I was thinking. Is like can reduce the amount of time when we're onboarding new people. Yep. Right.
It's definitely it kind of gives those training wheels, if you will.
Yeah.
When you turn on guided
question, like, what was I supposed to do?
And there's all kinds of options. There are how-tos and documentation out on the university about it. I'm not going to get into that, of course, here, but I highly recommend, if you are at all interested, check that out. I can send over some links for that as well. But yeah, I love it because it makes it easier for training and bringing in those new salespeople. And, you're trying to keep your support staff happy and making sure that they sell the right things to keep the help desk happy and that there's not conflict, right?
Yeah. And minimizing that sales life cycle, right? So if you make it easier for the person who's building the quote, give them those tools to make it a lot quicker turnaround.
Yep. Templates and then this guided selling, and you can have a quote out the door in 5 minutes.
Who said
easy?
Question. So we're pulling this all from a price book. So the price, correct? Everything.
What was that?
We're pulling everything from a price book, essentially, right?
Yes.
So the price book is determined by ConnectWise or owner or vendors or what?
So in this case, for the guided selling, you want to make sure that those products match exactly your ConnectWise PSA product catalog. So that's why I say it's best for like those managed services, because that's the services and stuff that you're going to sell regularly, that you're going to have already existing in your catalog, as opposed to hardware that maybe the pricing fluctuates or the availability.
Got it. Okay. And then pricing is adjusted based off of whatever the owner determines.
That pricing is going to come in from the catalog as well. So you can see here, I have these set up as recurring items in my catalog. And so this is the pricing that came directly over from ConnectWise PSA.
Okay. Can a company adjust that at the organizational level and standardize their pricing because this is like a service page for them. So if they don't want to charge $199, can they standardize it at $250?
Well, absolutely. And that would be done in their product catalog.
Yep.
They can still override these prices at the quote level before they send it out as well.
If they're doing discounts, right?
Depending on what permissions you give them, right? So you want to keep maybe some of that stuff locked down or have things that need review so you can't have them giving away the farm. But
as an owner of my MSP, I can set specific pricing for all of this and then give an authorization to a certain percentage off at the time of quote if they want to.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. And you can
And
even
you
do
get
that
approvals
with
in
this
there
price
too.
modifier right in the quote.
Thanks, Juan. I was talking to Lynette. Thank you, Juan.
I was just saying that the tool has approvals, man. You can build approvals too. So before the quote goes out, it needs to be, you can set up your rules to be approved by somebody else.
Fine. Thank you, Lynette, for answering that.
Nobody is Sean and breaks the rules. There's
So then the thing that my favorite thing about CPQ and the reason I was so excited when my former MSP started using it is I love this order porter page that the customer gets to see. They can see exactly what they're paying for and they get some term options. If you want to put options on, if you wanted to show them what the different pricing is for the different levels and let them choose, you can do all of that here. And then they're in charge of, what they want to put. You don't have to create 3 different quotes to give them 3 different options. You can do it all in CPQ at one time, and then they pick what they want, and that gets sent over to PSA. Which is my next step, that whole converting it to the sales order. So obviously, Sean loved this offer that I gave him, so he signs it right away, hits the commit button, and then the process takes off again.
Well, it was net 365 days, so I was okay with that because I was using a whole year to pay. I was fine with that.
Okay. So my question for you, Juan and Sean, is do you always convert directly to a sales order or do you convert to like the ticket or the project directly?
Sales order.
Sales order, it should be.
We were taught that the sales order is the quarterback.
So you have been talking to J9.
Yes.
That is definitely, there's still the availability to do it, but, we would like to streamline that you always just go to the sales order, that whole one place to look. And like I said, when I was beginning, this is how your business is going to be able to grow, so if you have one person, your salespeople click win, and then they're hands off of it, you can have a workflow rule that sends it over to the next person and they're going to convert it to the sales order and do what needs to be done next. I know it may seem silly when it's the same person doing the whole process. It might seem like a couple extra clicks, but it is worth it getting into that habit once you are growing.
Yeah. And we use it for ownership too. So there's one person or team that's looking at that specific board, and then they can make the decision. So what is happening, and also for gatekeeping, one single location for that.
I love PSA for accountability, right? So we know exactly who that audit track, we know exactly who's responsible for who did the last action and who's responsible to take the next one. So you can see here, Sean, your signature looks like mine. But in this, we're using...
That's actually probably my signature, legitimately almost.
The L? You just do an L?
Well, there's an L in there. It's an S and L. So yeah.
I guess it makes sense. We do have that initial in common.
And it looks like a train wreck typically for me though.
So the other thing we want to do with using ConnectWise CPQ is we can do electronic ordering. So right from CPQ, we can start that electronic order, and it's going to take care of a couple of steps for us. You can see here, it's going to give us the opportunity to give us the chance to push all of that over to the opportunity. Too many uses of the word opportunity in one sentence. When we were building out that quote, we wanted to have things grouped by the tab. So we weren't sending any products that we weren't selling over into our product catalog. That was one of my OCD obsessions, was keeping that product catalog clean and streamlined. So I didn't want excess products in there. So now that we've won the order, we can group it by line item and make sure that all of those individual products are sent over to PSA. And now you can see here that I am just creating the sales order. I do have the option to do all those other things, but I'm going to just create the sales order. And now we have the opportunity for sourcing it. So along with our gold managed service, they also wanted a couple of hardware items. You can see we have this mini tower. Everything else is sourcing from ConnectWise, but that one's listed as unsourced. So we're going to look up the cost for that. And we're going to get a list of who has it in stock, how many they have in stock, and what the best price is. So we can see from all of our distributors at one glance who is the best person to go with for this. In this case, D&H was the only one that has it in stock. So that's, of course, who I'm going to go with. Pricing or not, they're the best one there. And now that I've selected D&H, it gives me the option right here in CPQ to go ahead and create that purchase order in PSA. And that's going to automatically email it to whoever I have set up in this electronic order profile. So this is a great way to kind of streamline that process. As soon as the order is won, that demand is generated, and that purchase order is sent off. Now, if you like to bundle some of your orders together so that you can get the best pricing, maybe you have limits on shipping and such, this might not be the best thing. And you can turn on electronic ordering per user in CPQ. So this is not a global thing. So if maybe you don't want some of your salespeople using electronic ordering, you can turn it off from their user and they won't have that option. So then for maybe those salespeople that you don't give the option to, or, maybe it's just, it's nothing that you're having to source. It's just services. So we can convert that also from PSA. So if we don't have any hardware that we're buying and we just want to do the services, can do that right from PSA. You can see here we have our status from CPQ came in as customer approved. So this is we can set off a workflow that says, hey, the order's been approved. It needs to be won and converted to the next stage. And then we can click on the win button right here from the opportunity. It's going to give us the option if, maybe they decided they didn't want all of the services. Maybe they gave us a call and said, hey, I want this, but not that. In this case, we want to change everything to one. And then we're going to mark it as one and convert it right from here. So you're talking about less clicks, Sean. This is all in one. It's going to do it all at the same time for you. And of course, we have it set to convert it to that sales order. And if we had an existing sales order for them, we could just add it to that. But in this case, we're going to create a new one. And then you can see here, we now have our sales order, all of that stuff where just our services came over. So this is a great option if you're not doing that electronic ordering, if you don't have any hardware, or if you have other people in the process that maybe you don't want don't want the salespeople's hands in it at that electronic order option.
Awesome. I like that. That's easy.
Absolutely. It's all about less clicks, right? You just follow the process. It'll automate it through for you. So, leading right into automating it, right? We were talking about those sales stages, how we can set workflows. Juan, do you use the success list?
We don't.
I might have to take your gold star away. So I love the success lists. They're a great way to track those stages. And now, if you're just looking at them on your dashboard, I can get that. Maybe they're not all of that useful, but you can also do activities and workflows from this. So it's a great way to kick off things that are happening in CPQ and push that information over into PSA and create an activity or send an email so that your salesperson can take some action. So we set those up from settings, sales coaching, that success list profile way down there at the bottom. They make it hard to find, which is probably why not a lot of people use it. And you can see we have a long list currently in our training environment, but we're going to look at this one. So we can have lots of different profiles out here. And then each profile, we can have different things based on these success stages. So these are all the stages that are pre-configured in CPQ, whether if you want to take action when the quote is first created, or when the customer first visits the quote, or when it's approved or won. Or maybe, if they've been visiting it like 10 times, you want to make sure that the salesperson reaches out to see if they have any questions. If you have a number that, okay, if they're visiting this many times, it must mean that they have questions. So we can go into those different ones. And in this case, I'm looking at the first visit. And in our case, 4.5 days is the sweet spot from when we send them the quote through Order Porter of when we want them to have that first visit. By setting that target sweet spot, it's going to give us the warning and the late overdue. So the late is twice the sweet spot. We can then kick off things in PSA from this. So you can see here we have a track, and we can have this new track start either when the customer first clicks on their first visit, or if they haven't visited and it hits that red or yellow stage, we can have different actions and different notifications for the salespeople, or even have it send emails to the client saying, hey, this is still sitting out here. You haven't looked at me yet. So you can see we can create an activity, create a configuration, email the rep, and then we can also update things on the quote automatically all from here. So this is a great opportunity to say, hey, it's been 9 days. The customer hasn't looked at this. You might want to poke them. Maybe it's lost in their inbox somewhere. Or if they've had the first visit and maybe now they've been visiting a lot, you want to create an activity for them, because obviously your salespeople are monitoring their activities and their life is their calendar. So they're going to see that pop up and know that they need to take some action with this. So Juan, have I encouraged you to use success lists?
I can see some uses for that.
Awesome. I love it. I've converted you. Yay.
What are some uses, Juan? I'm curious. I want to hear Juan's uses that he thought of right then and there.
Well, because sometimes when we look at one of our biggest challenges, for example, like renewals, right? Because those things are sometimes can be time sensitive. Mm-hmm. You can now have the visibility in actions based on when the email was sent, and then review is like, okay, has it actually been viewed by the client? You can actually create those follow-up actions to make sure that not only you close the sale, but don't impact the client.
And if you have new salespeople, you can also create a sweet spot and a track for how soon it takes them from starting to create that quote to actually sending it to the customer. So if it's taking them multiple days, that might be somebody that maybe you need to have a little more training or conversations with. Got
it. I like it. So who gets notified? So does it create an automatic notification to the required?
It can email the rep or it can create an activity, or you could do multiple things, and you could do multiple things based on the different parts of it. So you could have multiple tracks, if you will, for each stage of the success list, depending on if you want it to start when it hits the stage or if it hits red or yellow.
I like the fact that you can, have the opportunity in there to actually email the client. Have that soft touch, because we have a lot of workflows that typically just pings the salesperson. The ones that ping the client usually are service related. But this one, you can have that soft touch back to the client as a reminder.
Yeah, just that gentle poke. I'm still here. Did you remember? Kind of like, if a ticket's been waiting and waiting for a response for X amount of days, you're going to have that same thing. So then, do you use tracks in PSA?
Maybe
no.
I was gonna put you on the spot and see if you know the difference between a track and a workflow.
No.
This is one of my favorite learning opportunities.
Tracks are awesome because you can.
Hey, Juan, Lynette's talking now.
Sean is the teacher's pet now. I gave him a gold star and he's all over it.
I was like, I want it. I didn't use tracks, but
I don't know. Tell me about it. I'm so curious.
So tracks are just kind of like a train track. They are a set of destinations on a set timeline. So the train is going to stop at every one of these stations at its scheduled time because the train always is running on time, right? So this is great in the sales process. And I can actually show you here. I have a tendency to talk and forget to advance my slides. So you can see here, we have our track for our new client welcome. So we want to make sure that once they sign that agreement or that sale, that we welcome them right away and that we have regular communication with them to make them feel welcome, to make them feel involved, to give them all of the information they need. We can't necessarily rely on our salesperson to do this because we want them out selling. We don't want them sitting at the office sending out emails. So we can do that through this track, and we can set up a schedule of activities we want to happen. So we want to send them an email telling them, thank you for choosing us. And you can see here, we can build that out, use those tokens so it looks like we're communicating to them personally, put in their name, their company name. But then this is what makes it a track. It's going to perform this after X amount of days. So a workflow is relying on a trigger. It's looking for something to happen in the system, whether it's a due date to come up or whatever. This is going to take this action 30 days from the time the track is applied, no matter what else is going on. So it doesn't matter if somebody forgot to choose something, this train is still going down its track. So in 30 days, it's going to send them this information. So this is great for those important things that you want to make sure your customers know that maybe sometimes you forget. The salespeople get busy in something else and they're not always good on that follow through. This is just a way to keep that follow through being consistent. Now, the fun thing about those tracks, so I talked about, we have our new customer stuff and it only works if we apply it to the customer. So we can automatically apply a track from a company status. So you can see here, we have our company status of onboarding, and it's going to apply that ConnectWise welcome client track. So as soon as we change the status, this is automatically going to happen. So the salesperson doesn't even have to think about it beyond changing the status. But we can also do that with the workflow, which I'll show you. And of course, too, maybe once they're fully onboarded, we want to make sure that they don't keep getting those emails. Maybe we have the emails going for a longer time for a longer onboarding and the client is done within 30 days. So we can also set that a status will cancel any tracks attached to them. So if we had any marketing tracks or any new client onboarding tracks, those would be canceled once they hit the active status so that they're not getting confusing emails. Sean, does that make sense? You have a confused look on your face. Okay.
So you have conditions set up.
Yep. So you can have things that automatically happen. You do a status, and this is going to happen. So
yes.
The salesperson doesn't have to think about applying.
But upon completion of said track, the track will end, and they'll get the new set of track because there's already a condition built in. It's automated.
Mm-hmm. And
got it.
We can apply those tracks with a workflow. We can do that stuff with a workflow rule. So you can see here, I have limited my list of workflow rules to just those things that that apply to the opportunity, because that's what we're talking about here. I don't know about your guys' instance, but I know in our training instance, we get a lot of stuff out there. So it can sometimes be hard to find what you're looking for. So having these filters to find exactly what you need when you need it is fabulous. So this first one talks about what I was just saying. So we have the opportunity, and that opportunity, when we manually won it, we changed it to one new client. And by doing that, that's going to change the company status now and kick off that onboarding track. So all the salesperson or your operations manager, whoever converts that one opportunity, as long as they put it in that one new client status, it's going to kick off all of this other stuff that's just going to automatically happen and keep your client informed. You can also have that track sending out information to your service desks so that they know this new client is being onboarded. You can have it sending out information to maybe a project manager who has to do their onboarding project. So you can keep everybody in your team, including the client, informed just by changing this opportunity status. enough automation for you there, Sean?
I like
click
it.
and it does magic.
Lynette, can you do that by type? Like, can we? I didn't want to like get distracted going into PSA, but you can create that same workflow. Like if it meets a specific type to attach it to a track.
I would have to look up about types because of the fact that you can have multiple types. So the company status is a lot easier for that because of the fact it is one. That is their financial status within the company. And so they only have a single status, whereas you can have multiple types.
Yeah.
So I know you can do, well, I don't know if you can do workflows on types. Well, that was something that we'll have to double check.
Okay.
I'll look into it and get back to you. Somebody's keeping track of these things, right? Sean, you're making notes of what I have to look into? I know I've said a couple things.
It's recorded.
Excellent. Somebody is taking notes. So then our next workflow rule that we want is the quote expiration day. So you saw that, we were building our quote in CPQ. We're going to sync that CPQ quote over to our opportunity because we want to make sure that everybody is in line there. Everybody has the same information. And that quote expiration date is going to come over. So we want a workflow that tells us that, hey, the quote is expiring, because once the quote expires, the customer can no longer approve it and sign it, and you're going to have to take some action. So better to get in there and do that sooner than to have the customer frustrated that they can't access the quote any longer because it's expired. Or, maybe that the quote expiring is a good time too for the salesperson to touch base with the client saying, hey, the quote's coming up on expiring. Is this something you're still interested in? Keeping that sale moving and making sure that we're not losing that relationship. And then just making sure that maybe you have a handoff process. Like Juan, you were saying, you have somebody, the salespeople do sales, and then you have somebody else who takes it from the next step. So having a workflow rule that just says, hey, creates an activity for somebody. This opportunity was marked as one. You need to go do your thing. So just making that accountability and alerting people of things being ready, so we're not having to do that through email or Teams and people are forgetting. It gives that accountability and that the track of, hey, this needs to get done, as opposed to getting lost in a Teams message or email. And then my last workflow rule is wanting to make sure that there aren't unconverted products sitting out there on the opportunity. You can't invoice from an opportunity. You have to convert it to something, which is, of course, why I like to push converting it to the sales order. You can invoice from a sales order. You shouldn't if it's in more than just hardware, but you can. But if it's sitting out on that opportunity, that could be lost money. So we want to make sure that there's nothing forgotten out on that opportunity. So we're going to have a workflow that once a day is going to check and make sure that there's nothing unconverted out there. And if it is, it's going to send an email to whoever would be the one that needs to take that next step of converting it into the sales order and keeping it moving through the process. So these are great. These are kind of our bucket of suggestions of what you should do to keep your sales process moving. But if there are spots that you're seeing where things can fall through or where people aren't necessarily picking it up and taking the next step, that is a great opportunity for a workflow rule or some sort of automation. If you're not sure where to start, you could definitely reach out to us, education@connectwise.com or partnersuccess@connectwise.com. Great way to get help in creating some of those things to make sure nothing falls through the cracks. We all like money, so we want to make sure that we're not leaving any money on the table with those sales. And of course, ConnectWise Marketplace, a great place to go and find all these things. You don't have to create the wheel from scratch. We've already created it for you, right? So either the education team or other partners. It's a great place to put stuff out there. You never know what you're going to find. Everything comes in activated, so you can customize it to your situation, see if it's going to work for you before you make it active and start spamming everybody. So that is the key. Always test your workflow rules before you activate them, because you don't want to send 500 emails to anybody. We've all done that. We've all done it once. Only once. You learn your lesson quick.
Yes. No, automation and those workflows are, a fantastic, fantastic tool, because as we're going through the process, as we review a lot of our, processes inside of the business, and it's interesting when we're having these conversations and we see where people are struggling. The first question is, can we automate it?
Yep.
And usually the answer has been, oh yeah, we can definitely do that in some level, right? Either by setting a notification to remind somebody, or you change the status, you create something, so you don't have those different challenges throughout your whole life cycle.
Absolutely. And it's that whole, you got to find that delicate balance for your company and your staff of what works for doing the in-app notification versus activities versus email, because at some point, techs and salespeople, like they're going to get immune to them. If they're getting a ton of stuff in their inbox, they're going to start tuning it out. They're going to create a workflow rule in Outlook to just move that stuff out of the way. So now you're not getting any value out of it. So you want to make sure that what you're sending is appropriate and timely, so that they're not getting annoyed and considering it noise. So my key takeaways for today is always start from that opportunity. If it's not in ConnectWise, it didn't happen. So Sean, start that out in the lead so we can get that discovery and all of that information, have that in PSA so that our engineers and people down the road have that initial information. Use CPQ to make your quoting easier. Use the templates, use the guided selling, make it so that your salespeople can spend 5 minutes creating a quote, not 30 minutes. You want them out selling, not sitting around sending emails and making quotes. Convert everything to a sales order, so you have that one place to look. You can have that accountability chain. You know the order things are supposed to be done. And then finally, use automation to make sure nothing gets missed. If you have that consistent process with the sales order, it's easier to set up that automation if it has one place to look, one thing to do, and it can take that next action. So the next, I have my slide here. So if you have questions, I haven't been watching the chat, Sean. I don't know, Juan, Sean, if there's anything that has come in. But education@connectwise.com is always a great place to start. If there's questions on any of the products or the assets out there, we have a team here waiting to help. That's what we do, right? We do all this stuff. And Juan, I saw that you put about my coming up webinar. I do have a shameless plug. Next week, I am doing similar to this, but we'll start from those ConnectWise best practices. So that keep the red out. My life is my calendar. All of those fun sayings that, those of us who have been with ConnectWise a while remember, and I wanted them like on tattoos for people. We'll talk a little more in depth about the sales process. We'll review those same sales automation, and then we'll also look at some of that sales monitoring and forecasting. So didn't today get into that, but looking at some of those reports and some of those ways to make sure that your sales team is staying on track. And I promise it's a safe QR code as well. It's not going to rickroll you. I know the RMM guys, it's one of their favorite tricks, but I'm a little more mature than that.
Yeah, and the URL is scrolling down there.
Perfect.
It is in the university. Yeah, if you go to the upcoming sessions, easy to find.
Yep.
All those are listed in there.
Yeah, my favorite resource out on the university is that calendar. You can always see what is coming up and get registered for it and get more information.
All right. So what else we have? That's it for now.
That's what I have today. Do you have any other questions for me?
No, but I think we could probably in the future break this down into a couple of different segments too, like based off of each one of your takeaways you listed. And
yeah, sales is definitely one of those big things to swallow all at once. So whatever help you guys need, definitely let me know. Whatever the group is asking for, I'm happy to come back and present even smaller chunks and pieces.
You hear that one? It's a lot to swallow at once.
We'll build a series.
Yeah,
we'll go ahead and build the series.
More than one. Yes, sounds good. Okay, great. Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you,
Thank you
Lynette.
for having me, guys. It's been fun.
Absolutely. We got to do this more often.
Seeing you twice a year is just not enough, Sean.
I agree, Lynette. So we know what, we'll do a better job at this. We'll chunk this down. We'll turn this into a cool series for different things we can record even offline without being live.
Yeah, you guys know where to find me. And if you want RMM support, just let me know and I can reach out to one of the bros.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think we're working on series on those too. So
nice.
Yeah, we can't talk about that right now though. We're not there yet, so we have to wait until we get there.
Yeah,
it's future.
More to come.
You always want to be telling them more to come. Exactly.
Exactly.
Keep them interested. Keep them coming back for more.
Yep, coming back. Coming is important. So yes, looking forward to having the series go further. And seriously, Lynette, that was a nice job. I do have questions that we can get into, but I think that's more about just specifying the areas, like break it down to the different areas of your takeaways. Juan, is there anything else you'd like to add to this before we hop off here, because we're well over time?
Yeah, we're over time, but no, thank you, Lynette, for joining us and sharing this with the community, and just looking at all the different processes, make sure all the dots, how they do connect, and try to leverage. And it's interesting because in each piece that you were showing, there's always a possibility of automation. It's just not just the templates. You have the workflows. Leveraging the different fields. I mean, those are the things that it's going to help your team. So that was great information.
Absolutely.
And the more that you have out in PSA, the more visible your process is, so you can see where those opportunities for automation exist.
Yep. All right, good. And everybody look down at the bottom of the banner scrolling. Don't forget, if you want to go to IT Nation Connect, $250 off. If you use the code Central Mafia with an exclamation point, because obviously we yell everything here. And if you aren't already a member and part of the Slack group, we have the Slack group, and that is the link right there for the Slack group. That's right, on point. So otherwise,
hands free.
Magic. Yes. All right. Otherwise, that's all we have for today. Looking forward to the next couple weeks. Actually, in 1 month we'll be IT Nation Connect. So I'm looking forward.
Oh yeah, we'll be together.
We'll be together forever and ever.
All right. Thank you.